How did you join the Dfinity Foundation?
I spent quite a large part of my career in communications and management consulting. We charge, I think, around $5 a gig a year.
Talk to us a little bit about the ICP itself.
ICP is quite a unique chain in the sense that the whole philosophy is kind of, let's say, like designed very differently.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Hash It Out by Foundership. I'm your host, Bimlesh Gundurao, and I'm also the co-founder at Foundership. We are a Web3 accelerator VC based out of Singapore, India, and Dubai. We accelerate growth stage startups with coaching, capital, and community, enabling that they have a clear pathway to a successful token launch. And today, I'm super excited with inviting a special guest, one of our partners in the ecosystem, which is from Dfinity Foundation, the team which is behind the ICP protocol, and super excited to welcome Tom, who is a program manager as part of the Olympus Accelerator, and very excited to welcome him from Indonesia today. So welcome, Tom. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me, Bimlesh. It's such a pleasure to be here this evening on my side of the world. We've obviously been in contact for quite a while now, and so looking forward to sharing with everybody what we've been up to.
Fantastic. So let's kick this right off. Let everyone know what it is to build an ICP and stuff like that. So before that, share a little bit about what you do. How did you join? The Dfinity Foundation and your work at Olympus Accelerator, and your little bit background of what got you into Web3.
Yeah, so that's quite so we can speak all night about this, really. But I'm going to give you the short version. So I spent quite a large part of my career in communications and management consulting. And a couple of years ago, I launched my own early staged impact investment vehicle, and here in Indonesia. And that was an amazing experience because I really had to dive into the world of startups and investors, and doing the matchmaking and understanding how that world works. And through my time here, I got regularly exposed to the booming Web3 space. As I'm sure you know, Bali is one of those hubs that attracts brilliant minds from all over the world, and Web3 is one of the, let's say, like the hot sectors on this island. And over the course of my engagements in my previous company, I met with the ICP team a whole bunch of times. Immediately made friends with them, very, very nice guys. And what kind of happened is we kind of, we're looking at, okay, well, how do we develop ICP in Southeast Asia? And with ICP's Hub network, we decided to launch ICP Hub Indonesia just about like a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now, to really drive education and adoption of ICP, but also just blockchain technology in general. And earlier this year, through that work, I was invited to join the ICP, let's say, like head office, or more from a Dfinity side of things, to help and manage the entire global pipeline. So I'm sure we're going to talk about this in a little while, but ICP is set up globally. Each country has their own program and helps to incubate and develop, let's say, winning Web3 projects. And I lend my experience in the, let's say, like the traditional sector with helping these projects to scale. And to be honest, it's very time consuming, but it's such a pleasure to do every day that's really what gives me motivation in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely. I think working with founders from different parts of the world, especially in Web3, is a very unique experience by itself.
Yeah, there's so much going on, and then I'll see similar ideas pop up in different parts of the world. So I literally speak with like at least 15 countries every week, and I'll see very similar projects give like rise, and there's no connection between the two. They're just solving a similar problem. And something that I try to do is understand how we can create synergies instead of putting projects head to head. How can they actually support each other and obviously scale and provide more value to everyone along the way.
Fantastic. This is amazing. Talk to us a little bit about the ICP itself. What's unique value proposition that it offers to startups and builders who are looking to solve world level scale problems on the ICP chain?
So ICP is quite a unique chain in the sense that the whole philosophy is kind of, let's say, like designed very differently to, to the major chains out there, like, like Ethereum and the like. And one of the main things that's, there's obviously a whole list of features that make us, let's say, special in a sense. But some of the main things will be like the ability to, for Web3 and Web2 to talk to each other. So we've developed something called HTTPS outcalls, which allows for you to run your front end and your back end directly on chain and still be able to communicate with any sort of Web2 services. This is unique to us. We also have a reverse gas fee model where the canisters, so we call smart contracts canisters at ICP, where the canisters actually pay for the fees as opposed to the users for lots of projects, especially things like gaming, social apps, things like that. It's a huge value driver because then the users aren't paying to actually perform on-chain transactions. Like speed for, finality of transactions is ultra fast. It's less than 2 seconds. We've got gas fees are obviously super low and a fixed rate. And something that's also really interesting is that hosting on chain is incredibly cheap with ICP. We charge, I think, around $5 a gig a year. And you don't want to look at how much Ethereum would charge you to host 1 gig of data on chain. So this is one of the big factors, is that we're allowing then developers to host most of their data with us, which is obviously 100% secured. You're still allowed to communicate between traditional cloud-based services. So a lot of our products or our projects that have like very heavy data, then we configure kind of a system where they do pod cloud hosting, and then all of the sensitive data is hosted on chain. And then we've got a couple of really cool features that have come out over the course of the last year. Things like chainfusion or like chain key cryptography, which basically allows people to use different types of stable coins directly through the ICP ecosystem. So we've developed CKBTC, CKETH, and I think USDC and a couple more. And basically, with ICP, you don't need oracles anymore. You can do all of your cross-chain transactions directly through ICP. So first of all, it adds additional layers of security for everybody. But then from a user point of view, they don't have to deal with dealing with different chains or going through different exchanges or things like this. Like everything is seamlessly integrated. And I mean, I could go on for quite a while. Yes. So I'll stick to the basics, but basically,
Sure.
those are some of the key features, that we have that make us really unique. And I would say something else that makes us unique is our ecosystem and how we really value, collaboration on a global level. We really enable all the countries to develop and to, through our grant programs, through our incubator accelerator programs, working with experts, such as yourselves to really drive the agenda forwards.
Fantastic. I think a couple of things stood out there. One is the entire ecosystem approach. Second is your uniqueness of enabling easier transition of Web2 to come to Web3 with the HTTPS outcalls, and obviously the entire accelerator and the grant support, right? If you were to break this down a little bit further, what is the easiest path for someone to get started on ICP? Is it more to solve a specific sector-wise problem, or can I bring in my Web2 skills on knowing a certain programming language that I can come onto ICP sooner and faster? What's the learning curve for me to start building on ICP?
So starting to build on ICP, I would say, the first thing which I would, recommend anybody to do, and I do myself, it's like go on internetcomputer.org and just educate yourself slightly on actually what's going, like what we do, what's going on. If you're a developer, you're going to understand quite quickly, how we operate. of what we call WASM, which is like WebAssembly. So basically, you can use any language that compiles to WASM to write smart contracts with ICPs. And so basically, like if you're a developer and you've got experience, with Python, C++, TypeScript is also a popular one, you're able to already compile on ICP and start building smart contracts or canisters. The language that we use or that we've co-developed would be like Motoko and Rust, and those are kind of the native languages for ICP. But we make it super easy for cross compilation to happen and for the integration. So from that point of view, it's really easy to get started. What I would always invite projects, and that's when I step out of Web3 in general and I just talk about entrepreneurs and problem solving. It's what problem are you trying to solve? Who are you serving? Like asking yourself the basic questions: why are you doing what you're doing? Who are you trying to help? And then once you kind of know what the case that you're trying to crack here, then you can reach out to either like a team such as Foundership, or reach out to your regional hubs. So we've got hubs in over 25 countries. They're quite easy to find. We have quite an active web presence, and speak to one of the hub leaders. And that's literally what we do every day. So I do it with Indonesia quite a lot through my position in the program. I speak with teams from every single country when we're doing the initial reviews to understand, first of all, are you guys solving a real problem? Is there value in what you're doing? And then what parts of ICP can actually make your project take off even faster? So then we look at things more from a technical point of view. We look at what the unique features that we have, and we say like, hey, if actually you can use HTTPS outcalls for this, and this would solve a technical problem that you have, or you can use chain key technology or chain fusion to actually facilitate token exchanges from different chains, so that your users don't have to deal with that headache. That's pretty much the approach that we take. So we look at the case and we understand how we can solve it from a team support point of view, and of course from a technical point of view, what technologies we have available, and also what developer support we can provide. And obviously the grants is something we can talk about next.
Yeah, absolutely. This is amazing. Now, this definitely reduces the barrier for a lot of developers, experienced developers who already have a certain skill set to explore and come on board on the blockchain ecosystem and start exploring to build out applications on the ICP network.
Yeah.
Now, talk to us about how your grants are structured, because we all understand that the grant systems have also evolved over the last couple of years. So talk to us on how someone can look at grants. What is your model and your structure and the philosophy behind the entire grants ecosystem driven by Dfinity Foundation?
Yeah, so basically, as you said, Dfinity is a foundation. So the overarching ecosystem or entity runs non-profit. So we have quite a large sum of capital allocated for helping entrepreneurs thrive, and obviously inviting them to build on our chain. And so there's pretty much two ways that you can receive a grant from ICP. So the first one is by signing up to, let's say, like a hackathon that would be organized by one of our hubs. And this is usually like the softest entry, especially when you're starting off, because you get a lot of nurturing, you get given like easy assignments. And the trick, with the hackathon is obviously to understand how you think and your ability to make something happen. So from the hackathon experience, if your idea gets selected, then you're invited to technically join one of the incubator or accelerator programs. So you get 360 support for your idea, and each program has, let's say, grants built into them. So if you're part of the program, you'd be receiving grants along the way. What we do is a tranche system. So we'll set up a bit of a roadmap. Let's say we look at the next 3 months or 6 months. Let's look at, what you can achieve over the course of that time. And then we'll approve your proposal. And then every time you deliver a milestone, we unlock the tranche for that. At the beginning, we had it backwards, where, we were very trusting of the situation. But a lot of developers or a lot of projects kind of abuse that system, which is quite sad. So we had to, to implement the milestone basis, which is, listen, you guys deliver, you prove to us that you've put the work in, the money's there, we usually give grants between, I'd say like starting at like 5K, like up to 100K, depending on your project needs and things like this. There are some cases where we can go over 100K if we can see that you're delivering a whole lot of value. And in terms of the grants themselves, we have what we called community grants and developer grants. And from the community grants, let's say there's a little bit more freedom in terms of how you can apply it, because it's a community grant. We're not expecting you to invest all of that money into just development or like technical development of your project, but it can be part of the community development of your project. So a bit can go into marketing and things like this. When we deal with developer grants, we expect all of those resources to be allocated to the devs. So all of that money goes and then gets invested into coding and not in organizing events or, building your Telegram or your Twitter page. And so those are two, let's say, teams within ICP that review these grants. They each have their own checklists, and each of them are quite strict in terms of the reviews. We get grant applications the whole time. We try support as many projects as possible, but at the same time, we also have to be gatekeepers and make sure that we really put forward the projects that we feel are truly invested in what we're doing. We're not a fan of grant shopping, and we do identify them pretty quickly. And so for us, proving that you're committed to the process is great. If you've received grants from another blockchain before, or you're developing also on another blockchain, that's not an issue. We're always happy for you to develop yourself as a project in any way that sees fit. But when you'd like to join our ecosystem, we want to work with you over time. So we do expect a bit of loyalty, which is like we give you a trust, we put trust into that, you're going to want to work with us over time, and then we'll give you that same commitment back. So for us, true value is built over time, and that's kind of the mindset that we invite teams to take on when they engage with us.
Got it. Amazing. I think that's in hindsight, every grant program has evolved of every foundation for the same reasons. That some saw success, many of them didn't see success on the on giving out grants in the previous cycle. And good to see that there's a milestone-based grant model being set out with a wide range of from $5,000 to $100,000 worth of grants being given out to developers. Now, one very interesting part of the ICP ecosystem is the hubs, right? I've been very fascinated in this entire hubs structure that you guys have put together. Talk to us a little bit about the philosophy of the ICC hubs. Why did you guys choose to take out the hub and spoke model, where each country has its own hub and how they work together? What's the philosophy? What's been the great learnings and activities from outcomes point of view that has led its success so far?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked this, because this is, let's say, a challenge that I've come across way before I was involved with ICP. And that's the challenge of, of going cross country or globalizing any sort of project that you have. What may work in America may not work in Indonesia. And actually, most of the time it does. So each country has a unique culture. Has a unique culture, a unique way of doing things. Just the language itself, programs us to operate in a different way. And so when we looked at, scaling ICP and really going global with it, we realized very quickly that the biggest mistake we could make was to say like, oh, cool, we're headquarters in Switzerland, we've got our systems here, we're going to deploy our systems across the world and everyone will adopt. What we decided was say, okay, here's a foundation for the technology that we have here, the tools that we can bring, here's the level of support that we can bring. What we're going to do is we're going to trust local experts, so entrepreneurs that live in specific countries that understand their landscape a whole lot better than us, to start hubs and to tailor their programs based on the nuances of that specific country. So we obviously have, let's say, like guiding, like overarching goals. So At the beginning, it was all about, creating awareness. So a lot of it is more kind of through, like events, PR, things like this. Now that we have this global awareness around ICP, we're focusing more on the work itself and the projects. So we've been really developing local incubator, accelerator, and venture building programs across each country, so that now we're not just letting people know about ICP. We're running hackathons, we're running ideathons, and we're not just running these in isolation. There's actually a whole roadmap. So you start with an ideathon or hackathon, you can then get invited to an incubator or to an accelerator program that then puts you maybe even out of your country. Of course, with Foundership, we have projects that have come through, lower tier programs or different types of programs that are now applying to be with you guys. And so when we look at entrepreneurship, and this has also been my experience, you've got to look at the entire journey, which is from having a great idea to having a great company. And what are the steps in between? How do we provide, let's say, a guideline for the hubs and the support structure for the hubs to go about this initiative, and then applying trust that they know their markets a whole lot better than us. And I mean, I lived in South Africa for a big part of my life. I lived in different European countries for a big part of my life. I've been in Indonesia for the last 4 years, engaging with other Southeast Asia countries. And I can tell you that you've got to let the local deployment happen. And if you let that happen, that's where you see things flourish. And now we've got to look at, obviously, tying the loop. It's now you've created that global spread. How do you bring every person back, every group back together, and leverage the global community? And those would be through initiatives like the Olympus Accelerator platform, which is pretty much an aggregator for all the teams, all the mentors, all the investors that we've collected over the years, and giving them a platform when now they can expand and they have access to a much larger community that's already understands and wants to participate in ICP initiatives.
Fantastic. What's in it for the ICP Hub leader? You said that any entrepreneur could come in and start an ICP Hub in an agreed country location. So what's the motivation for someone to come and be part of the ICP Hub and co-create the ICP ecosystem in that particular country?
So I would say two things. You've got to be an entrepreneur. You got to have that mindset of being an entrepreneur, which is you got to make things happen. You got to want to make things happen. What obviously helps a lot is having expertise or having experience in the Web3 space or in the blockchain space is a huge plus, because you understand the environment and what's required of it and where your country's at. And then what you're going to get from it is first of all a lot of fulfillment. This is one of the biggest reasons why I do this type of work, is the level of fulfillment that I get from working with projects and seeing them thrive, and getting things as like, thank you, like I could have never reached this milestone without your support. And when you're working with the country itself, like Indonesia, we spend a lot of time working in the education sector and with the governments, and we're helping actually with policy making for Web3 and blockchain integration on a national level. We're working with high schools and universities and helping a new generation of students to choose a career path that's becoming, let's say, like a staple name these days. So if this is the type of things that gives you kicks, then then becoming a hub leader is amazing, because you take on that responsibility, and of course you get exposure to a whole bunch of things through it, but then you also get that support. You also get that support from the global network, because all of the hubs constantly communicate with each other. We have our Discord server, a couple of team tools, and so you're not just alone in a country and, oh shit, I've got to make it happen, excuse my French. You leveraging from the learnings of the other hubs, and this is what we do every single week. And in my time zone, it happens at 9:30 p.m. every Friday, which is fantastic for my liver. And what happens is we share our experiences. So one week we'll hear from, from Canada saying, okay, this is what we've been doing, this is what's been working, this is what hasn't been working. Do you guys have any ideas? And then Poland will be like, well, actually, we've been trying this. Why don't you try it out?
Right.
India will give us input. And this is just such an amazing way to always culture the learning mindset and to find solutions that you would have never thought of if you stayed in isolation in your own country. So for us, this is a big part of what you get from being a hub leader, is exposure to great minds across the world. And actually, right after this podcast, we're also on a weekly call where we've got 5 hubs that are sharing their updates with us.
Got it. Fantastic. Now coming on to the accelerator part, right? So talk to us a little bit about how Olympus Accelerator is structured. What it takes for certain type of startups to make it into the accelerator, and what's the key benefits of someone trying to be part of the Olympus Accelerator program. I know that we are powering the new token launch ready program with Olympus Accelerator, but for the benefit of everyone, share your point of view.
Yeah. So basically, as I was mentioning earlier, it's about aggregating the community. It's about bringing the global community in one space. And if you look at the entrepreneurial landscape, you're essentially dealing with 5 stakeholder groups. So you'd have your entrepreneurs, you'd have your investors, you have your mentors, you have your service providers, and then of course you have your talent. So you have 5 groups of people that need each other to thrive. Investors have nothing if they don't have projects, require capital. Talents need work, or they need to join exciting projects. Mentors want to transfer their experience and help the next generation. And service providers are collaborators for whatever you need. If you have a consulting company, you hire an accountant company to take care of your books or whatever. So these are the 5 stakeholder groups that we're bringing together on the Olympus platform. And then what that does is it essentially helps everybody find their space, find what they need on it. From a project point of view, it gives them access to these groups of people, which are essentially already vetted by us. So if you're a project and you find a service provider on the Olympus platform, you know that it's been vetted by somebody at Dfinity, which means that they're going to do good work. Same with the talent. The investors that are there have already expressed interest in investing in ICP-backed Web3 projects. So you know that everybody's already a good fit for you. Then from the investor point of view, and this has been my job being an asset manager and a portfolio manager for a couple of years, is it's all about talent scouting. And when you when you finish your trial by fire as an investor, you realize that being careful is definitely the right way forward. And the way that you're careful is by observing and doing your due diligence and understanding, okay, is this project like cool, or is it actually an amazing project with an amazing team that's is going to go somewhere? So when you list your project on the Olympus platform, you list everything that you've been doing, and you essentially establish a timeline for your project. And people that you associate yourself with through Olympus, they can be seen on your profile. So you can see which mentors are supporting you, which talent has started working with you, which service providers, et cetera, et cetera. So from an investor's point of view, it adds a lot of trust to that process. And what we're doing is, from a pipeline point of view, is we're working with all of the hubs, identifying the best projects, or let's say the most ready for listing projects, let's say, and then bringing those on board first. And a big part of my job is the pipeline factory, which is looking at the projects that are still in idea phase versus the ones that are VC ready, and making sure that we introduce them to the Olympus platform when it's the right time, so that there's always movement, happening, and we're always promoting quality of people. And this is something that's quite important to us, is to create that, that curation or that quality assurance element that goes with it. And I would say that's the base ecosystem.
Fantastic.
And what you'll see from 2025 is a bit more of an integrated experience, where we'll be moving towards more of a DAO setup. and run our own tokenomics on it, where then all the contributors will be managing a portion of the token allocation for all of the contributors. So then we'll facilitate all of this, once again, creating more trust from the investment point of view, and providing more value to the ecosystem as a whole.
Fantastic. I think it is this ethos that brought us together to kind of go run this program, where we now have the ICP 0x Camp, which is essentially inviting applications of startups who are planning their TGE or their token launch in Q1, Q2 next year. And if you are one of those startups, then this is a program that you should definitely check out, because not only you get help in building on ICP, but you get everything that you need to get you on a path to TG with a very clear, playbook and an objective. That by the time you finish the program, you have a clear roadmap of how do I go about the next steps in getting to my TG. So do check out foundershiphq.com/ICP -0x Camp for more details. Now, moving forward, Tom, talk to us about some of the top verticals in which you have seen wider adoption of projects that are getting built on ICP and seeing a greater usage and adoption of the network by itself. Is it RWA? Is it gaming? Is it social fi? Talk to us about some of these sectors where you have seen some amazing adoption of applications that are getting built and problems getting solved.
Yeah, so of course I would say that AI is a big topic at the moment, and AI and Web3 integration and deploying AI on chain. We actually had 2 teams that deployed LLMs on ICP itself, which was super cool. And for us, AI is obviously taking over it's taking over the world. It's just transforming the way that we operate. And there's, let's say, like infinite applications to it. So for us, we've also been strengthening our infrastructure capabilities to promote AI projects, and to promote, let's say, the hardware needs for these models to run. And so AI is always interesting. We've got a lot of DeepIn coming up lately. DeepIn for me is really interesting because it really connects the digital world with the real world. We have a couple of RWA, so like real world asset projects that are coming up. This I genuinely feel is also extremely interesting, because that's the true bridge between the physical world and the digital one. And a lot of the headaches that are being solved at the moment is the legal integration between these two universes. So any project that I would say goes into the RWA space, if they're tackling the right problem, they're going to be onto something quite strong. And then it's just a case of being patient with the legislation, but being ready to take that on. I'm actually just going through my list right now to tell you like what's really hot. Anything that's like tools infrastructure related that promotes like cross-chain functionalities is always good. We've got quite like a rise in demand for DeFi projects, so facilitating like liquidity and facilitating flow of different tokens across different chains. As I mentioned, this is where chainfusion really comes into play. So there's a big demand from let's say from blockchain, from the Web3 space in general for that, and also from investors, because it's all about facilitating the flow of capital. And then something that's also a very interesting space is when you look at so it's less RWA, but it's more, let's say, like real world infrastructure or anything that's got to do with supply chain transparency. This is also quite critical. And we've got a couple of projects that are more in the sustainability space, but they're looking at doing things like issuing of carbon credits and things like this, which in the current world are extremely hard to verify. And there's a lot of scam around the carbon credit economies because no one can really prove it. And obviously blockchain is an immutable by design.
Yeah.
And So there are, let's say, like infinite use cases for any sort of supply chain, data storage, and gaming. Of course, as you said, gaming is huge, and we've got a lot of projects. I would say some of the projects with the biggest communities are definitely the gaming communities. We've got some with like over 1 million, couple 100,000. We've got some very early projects that are already in the tens of thousands of followers. And what's so cool about blockchain and gaming, of course, is that it's no longer like going to be like one-way transactions where you pay to play. Like in the future of gaming is you're getting paid to play, and the assets that you buy are your assets that you can sell onwards. And this, I feel it's really about time, because people invest their time and their money and energy into these games, but then the only thing they get out of it, is a rush, as opposed to, to the value that they've invested. So for me, the gaming industry is undergoing a radical shift because of blockchain, and there you're always going to have access to, tens of hundreds of millions of users. So that's always a very good space to incorporate. Social is a little bit different. I wouldn't put too much energy in it at the moment. I'd rather focus on the previous sectors that I mentioned.
Got it. Fantastic, Tom. This is this has been a great, insightful conversation covering several aspects of what it takes for someone to build on ICP, and how every Web3 startup can leverage the true power of the technology, the ecosystem, the grants, and the power of acceleration. I think with all this, we should be able to see a lot more global startups building on this ecosystem and taking this technology to more mass adoption, to truly bring power back to a lot of us, to manage our data, own our data, and monetize our data as well. So thank you so much. As we wrap this up, just letting everyone know, to all the listeners, the ICP 0x Camp applications are open. We kickstart the cohort in November 2024. So if you're looking for a token launch in Q1, Q2 of next year, do check out this program. It's a 90-day program, and we ensure that you get all the support and with a clear roadmap on TG, and more importantly, you also get a good amount of grants from the Dfinity Foundation as well. So thanks again, Tom, for joining us today. Until we invite our next guest on our Hash It Out podcast. See you soon.
Yes, fantastic. Thank you so much for the invitation, and yeah, just looking forward to this next cohort. You've been speaking about what you guys are doing, and I feel I haven't had enough opportunity to tell your viewers just the amazing work that you guys are doing. And as you mentioned, like TGE is obviously the next big step for a lot of projects, and we're just so happy to be doing yet another cohort with you guys. And so far, from the applications that we've seen and the projects that we've been discussing over the last couple of days, there's some amazing talent coming out, and of course we've got a couple of spots open. So for all of you guys that are out there that are looking for additional support, please send your application through, and we'll personally go over it and have one-on-ones with you to see how we can help you. So once again, yeah, keep up the great work. Thank you so much for the invitation. As you know, always available to support, and wishing you guys a fantastic afternoon, evening. I'm not so sure anymore.
Yeah, in whichever part of the world you are. Thanks, everyone.